We're here in December. We've made it through Thanksgiving holiday. Hope all of you did as well. Blessed with nice weather across most of the country, so no big travel delays. Next couple weeks across the United States look to be very good weeks without bitter cold and associated travel issues. I know a lot of you are waiting for winter weather to arrive. You love it. And for the West Coast that really wants to be able to ski and do other things over the holidays, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. This week, just the news has exploded on a new version of coronavirus. So what's happening across the globe? We continue to see coronavirus evolve. And let me just start by saying 100 years ago, 150 years ago, influenza probably started the same way. People got sick, they recognized it, they said it's the flu, they gave it a name, influenza, and at some point there was probably a single influenza. Later on, scientists began to look and said, you know, people keep getting influenza time after time in their life. And when they studied it, they came up with what would have at the time been called variants. And now we have influenza A and influenza B. And then people kept getting sick with influenza A's, and they studied it further and said, oh, there's influenza A, H1N1 or H5N1. The Spanish flu had a special designation and so forth. I'm just making you aware in the evolving weeks, we may learn that coronavirus is going to do a similar thing, and we may need to prepare for it the way we prepare for influenza, which is every year we anticipate certain variants of influenza that are going to be circulating, and we vaccinate for them, we treat for them, but people will continue to get sick with the flu because you can't be protected against the millions of variations of influenza. Let's get back to coronavirus. So coronavirus across the globe has occasionally drifted. That's the scientific name for it changing its form. And when it drifts, it gets certain characteristics that are different. And then they're called variants. So here we are, first week of December. Well, actually, it was the last week of November. And scientists in a country that has a very extensive public health system and does a lot of testing for genetic materials in viruses, that is South Africa. And they do that because they have the world's largest population of HIV patients, if you didn't realize that. So in South Africa, they were the first to find beta form of coronavirus. They were the first to find the Delta form of coronavirus. And then in one of their provinces, which is like our states, they found a rapidly increasing variety of the coronavirus that was occurring. They sequenced it. It's different. It has a lot of variations from the Delta virus that had been spreading very effectively there. And they designated it, and it's B11529. And when they studied it further, they said, boy, this is really pushing the Delta variant away. That's of concern. They noted that people that got it at that point in their population weren't as sick, maybe, as the ones that had other forms of COVID. They can't make any conclusions on that yet, and we shouldn't either. But it was of a concern that they reported it to the WHO, and the WHO considered it such a strong concern that they announced just before Thanksgiving here that this was going to be a variant of concern, notified the governments across the globe. Other governments began testing for the variants, found that those variants were present. And in fact, this week, in the last 24 hours, we have reported on 2 cases in the United States. None of those United States cases at this point are very sick. Neither of the ones reported so far have required hospitalization. These were individuals who knew that they got sick from their travel history. They knew they were exposed, self-reported, and with extensive testing that was done on the type of COVID that they had, were found to be the Omicron variant. Omicron is the official name Omicron, Omicron. And Omicron, we now know, is in the United States and in multiple other countries across the globe. The United States does relatively little testing for the different strains of viruses. In general, when we have outbreaks like we have now of coronavirus, we sample a few of those results and find the strain. Right now, very clearly, the dominant strain in this country is Delta, and it has been for months. And we know how infectious Delta is, and that essentially it has gone in waves across the country. And in some parts of the country now, including Michigan, they're at another high population time for the wave of coronavirus. Back to Omicron. We don't know enough about it scientifically yet to know exactly how dangerous it is, how transmissible it is, how it will be covered by our current vaccinations, or how it could be covered by the various treatments that are coming out. Those are things that probably in 2 weeks we'll have a much better handle of. From the early South African reports, they believe that vaccinated people are much less at risk for having severe disease, and much less at risk for hospitalization. That's a great initial report. Nonetheless, we do have a variant that was attractive enough to people that it quickly was replacing, in the provinces where it occurred, the Delta variant. That's why it's so concerning and why it should be concerning to us in the United States and in Canada. So what do we do moving forward? Well, we wait for a little science to occur to get us to the specifics of this variant. In the meantime, we do the really good things that we can do to prevent coronavirus overall. We get vaccinated, we get the additional dose of vaccine. That was what we went over a couple of weeks ago about getting the third dose of one of the mRNA vaccines, or a second dose if your initial vaccine was the Johnson & Johnson variety of vaccination. You don't go to work sick, and boy, is that getting hard at this time of the year when there's lots of respiratory bugs that are spreading. Please don't go to work sick, particularly in the communal settings that we have in our fire and EMS world. Number 3, wear appropriate PPE when you're doing patient encounters and when you're in social settings and community settings where there's lots of people around you, maybe even a lot of people coughing or sneezing. The United States government has already said in any public transit, we're going to be wearing masks by mandate for a longer period of time than was initially envisioned. For all of us, that means we probably are going to be wearing our masks for longer and wearing our PPE in patient care settings, and then doing really important things like not coughing or sneezing anywhere but into our elbow, and keeping our hands clean, and other really good public hygiene things that we have to do every day because we live together, we're responsible to each other together, and we're responsible to the people behind us, our families, who are counting on us to stay healthy. So for now, keep an eye on some of the news related to Omicron and other coronavirus materials. Number 2, stay healthy in every way that you can. Good hygiene, good diet, continue to exercise, appreciate while we still don't have a lot of the country that's covered in snow and ice. When you're in social settings, please take the opportunity to protect yourself. And as we prepare for the holidays, you may need to prepare your family for that. If you haven't gotten vaccinated yet, please do so. If you haven't gotten your booster yet, please do so. Please continue to use PPE in the public setting when we're doing patient care. This is Doc Talk, a very important week after Thanksgiving and into December. We look forward to healthy 2022. That's what we're shooting for, and that's what I hope you're shooting for as well. Until next week, we're signing off. Thank you all.